I'm not a ranger yet, but I will be in the future.
Once a ranger,
Always a ranger.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Once a Ranger. I'm joined with Nub, Akil, and a special guest for a special episode. We're joined by Somberton. Say hi, Somberton.
Hi, Somberton.
So Somberton is a fellow Power Ranger buff, and you can find him on TikTok under the name Somberton. And since this is kind of a big episode with the return of Tommy, return of an old friend, part 1 and 2. Spoiler, Tommy comes back. Somberton, why don't you start us off? Tell us your thoughts about this episode.
Oh man. Okay. So this episode, I think it's like my first note here is just parents, exclamation mark. Because is this I haven't been watching every episode. Is this the first time we see everyone's parents? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We don't see
any parents.
Yes.
I think so.
We see
maybe
uncles,
see an uncle.
Yeah, and aunts and things like that, or relatives, but extended family, but never. This is the first time we see their parents.
I think that I actually made a note of that as well, because so Rita goes, mother, 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 and then she has this plan about kidnapping the parents. And I made a note, it's probably because they're never at home doing all their extracurricular activities and stuff. She never sees them with the parents. And she's like, wait a second, they have parents. So just like us, we're like, oh my God, these guys have parents.
But yeah, who are these people? Or Rita has some code of I won't spy on them at home, only at the juice bar and the youth center.
Well, that's
they
had to wait for them to come there.
But she put that one episode where she put the doll in Trini's home.
It's not canon.
Yeah, that is a dream. That is maybe a dream episode. We don't know.
Right.
We have talked about it.
But yeah, I feel this lore building wise, this is such a interesting episode, because this is coming in this era where they're oh, we're not going to stop this at 40 episodes because our budget ran out. Now we have all this money. We can these characters can have families maybe that will be recurring characters, and we can go on to bigger stuff. But also we ran out of fight footage, so it's all going to be super disconnected, and we're never going to see the monster that kidnaps them.
Yeah, it's we don't see the monster. That's so funny.
Because they didn't have the suit.
That's true.
It was in Japan.
I do love with the parents that it's the very classic. I don't know if this is just for kids shows or if it was just the 90s, 2000s, where it's they are almost identical to their kids. They wear the same color, they dress the same, and then they Jason's dad is also a jock, a himbo. It's just the same exact person, different skin. So
that was, I love that trope too. I did make a note that Zach's the only parents who don't dress the same color, so they're wearing purple for some reason, and Zach's not wearing black. Too. Yeah, it's the whole color scheme was different, and Zach's not wearing black either. He's wearing a bunch of, I guess he's wearing black pants, but the color is so bright, contrasting to those black pants. I wouldn't consider that he's wearing black. Sorry, go ahead.
He's not wearing purple either.
He's not wearing purple either. Yeah, he doesn't match his parents at all.
His parents, whether he was wearing black or not.
Yeah.
But I was going to say, he was switched at birth with the Purple Ranger. I think this is what this means.
I was going to say, though, they have associated, but he wasn't wearing purple, but they have associated him with purple for some reason, in just the general, he does wear purple sometimes along with a black shirt. He'll have purple pants, and I was just where did the decision to tie in that as his I guess because black is a generic color, I guess everybody can wear. I don't know, so it was interesting.
Purple has always been. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, in animation, sometimes when it's oh, we need black to stand separate from shadows or background stuff, they'll do a purple shade to it. So I almost wonder if it's that kind of association, but they forgot their live action.
That's literally what I was going to say. That's so funny. The example I was going to bring up is Sailor Mars. So in the cosplay community, there actually has been a debate whether she has purple hair or black hair, right? And they always point out the purple shadows. But like really, if you are into animation, you know that means that she has black hair, but the purple is just used for shadows. And ironically, Spider-Man was supposed to, they used blue shadows. So
Right.
his suit was actually black and they used blue shadows, but it
Yeah.
kind of like got lost in translation. So now he's like blue and red, which is also like kind of maybe that's what happened here.
I was
But yeah,
thinking
no,
something else. I thought you were
What were
talking
you
about
thinking?
like so in like the '90s animated series of Spider-Man, when he gets the symbiote, there is like a purplish like hue or halo around. You know, like to your point of like in animation they use purple as like the shadow thing. So I thought that's what you were referring to, but that's interesting.
yeah, I'm talking
to
about
know.
like the original
Oh.
Spider-Man. But yes, purple is always, I think, associated with being black adjacent. Which I thought was interesting that they actually did in the live action. Like at a certain point, you stop questioning it
Right.
until your parents show up and they're wearing purple, like full purple,
Yeah.
like both of them, and you're like, what's going
I
on
also have
here?
another note about Zach, and that he's just kind of rude to Skull for no reason. Like
Yeah.
Skull's just going around videotaping like this party and trying to make memories, and he's like, "Hey, it's Zach and his folks," and he's like, "Get out of here, Skull."
Yeah,
Oh.
I always have that note. Every single episode, the
Yeah.
Rangers are mean
This is-
to Bulk and Skull for no reason.
Yeah, this is a recurring note of
No,
Minhas's.
I think I'm Team Bulk and Skull now. Like they don't do like anything, and the Rangers are just mean to them.
I wouldn't say
Yeah.
they don't do anything, but I understand.
Nothing.
Maybe in this instance, but I would say they don't do anything. A couple episodes ago, they stole the trophy after they lost fair and square. I don't know what's that about.
And in this episode, they started a food fight.
Yeah, but everyone loved it. It was a good time.
Even the principal and Miss Appleby were like, wee about it. No qualms. And they hate Bulk and Skull, as we've seen in previous episodes as well.
Yeah.
But Bulk's mom and dad. So I remember we were talking about this in the detention episode. Bulk's mom and dad really care about Bulk a lot, right? You know, they provide them a lot of like food to eat and whatever. And you really see that in this. They're so sweet, right? Like Bulk, the first thing Bulk's mom did. Okay, again, they did this to Bulk and Skull's mom, and they did nothing, right? They show up and they get covered in slime or whatever immediately. And she's like, "This is my new dress." And the dad's like, "But you've never been sweeter." Isn't it's so cute? I'm like, these guys are so adorable.
I also
But
like
then-
that Bulk's mom is Mimi from Drew Carey.
Is it? Oh my God, that's so
No, she
funny.
just dresses like her.
Oh, okay. I believed you for a second, but yeah, that's hilarious. She does dress like her.
But that's just what I thought. I'm like, why is Mimi here?
Yeah. But I think this episode is really like this saga is really interesting because of even though it's not a lot, we get quite a bit of time with the kids and their parents, and then like another note I have is like another kind of big, I don't know if the arc is the right word or whatever, but story beat for Kimberly is like she's worried because her parents are divorced, which I don't even know if they've mentioned before this episode, and she's worried about them being around each other, which is like a real thing for a child to experience, you know, like so in this very mythical world of Power Rangers that we have like these monsters and aliens and stuff, this young daughter who's very concerned about how her parents are going to interact after being separated. I was just like, whoa, this just came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Funny enough, I've been reading the comics my friend found in a dumpster and gave to me. The like Go-Go Power Rangers where it
Space
picks up.
dumpster?
Yeah, fittingly enough. He just like his stepdad goes like dumpster diving and he found like deluxe editions still in the wrapping, like $100 comic books, just a box of them in a dumpster, and they were like, "Oh, do you know anyone who likes Power Rangers?" But I was reading it, and it's the series that picks up like after episode 1 and kind of fills in the gaps. And they go over like when Kimberly first met the group, because they write in that she only moved there like 6 months ago, and they establish that her parents are always fighting and they're not divorced yet, but it's like they're having marital issues, and that kind of made Kimberly act a little mean to everyone at first. So I was just reading that issue, and then watch this episode. I'm like, oh, it's interesting that like that plot thread gets played out in this comic. Like they add to it decades later.
Right.
Oh yeah, no, and it's great that they did add that stuff because it really brings in perspective. Because I always say Kimberly is like mean, right? Like I say that in so many, like she's so mean all the time, but it actually does make sense. And it did feel like it was like a recent divorce because she's like, I don't even know if my dad's gonna come. Um, and she's like, what's going on? It's like very new territory for her. And then the parents are like, oh, of course, we'll always love you.
A little weird her mom brought her boyfriend though.
It's a little, especially if it's new.
Yeah.
And
it's Parents' Day. It's not, Guardian's Day.
Yeah, literally.
That man is not her parent.
It's just
Didn't
some
even
guy.
bother to wear pink either. Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
That's how we know he's not the parent. You are not the father.
Get out of here. That's so funny. Skull's mom also has his laugh, which I thought was cute. Skull's mom is like very what I expected Skull's mom to be like. Definitely, and I don't mean this in a rude way, definitely I could see that she's not the type to pack Skull sandwiches for detention. Even though, and you see that in previous episodes that she does not. He has to like rely on bulk for food. It just like it really is kind of telling, like you can really see why the characters are the way they are based off of their parents, and I think that's really neat.
Yeah,
definitely. Moving along, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
Because so the parents get kidnapped or taken, which Rita's plan, I think this might be one of her most interesting and like effective plans, or at least to start. Because like again, it's like a very emotionally attached like situation, right? It's their parents, and so taking their parents, I thought was pretty actually smart. She could have done it probably at any time, but hey, she got them all together at once, so it works. Yeah. But it was interesting that Billy wasn't there at the time when like all the other Rangers were fighting the putties outside, I think, and Billy hadn't shown up yet. And it's such a small thing, but like Billy enters the youth center, everybody's been taken, and I'm just wondering where he entered from, because like the Rangers were outside fighting the putties, and then Billy entered from another entrance, so he didn't see. I was just like, he came in, I was just confused.
He has tunnel vision.
Yeah. Cool.
From behind the back door.
Yeah, they
probably had his nose in a book, the nerd.
Well, that's what his dad was saying. He's like, when he gets caught up in his projects, you know how he is.
Yeah. Probably,
I think that's what's interesting about this episode is Rita starts off with this like really finally like a good plan of I'm just going to kidnap their parents and then make them surrender. But then they add on this layer of, but also we have mind control gas now and we can mind control the Blue Ranger, which is also like good. It's like, cool, get an evil Ranger. But then they're like, oh, and then he's going to steal the Dragon Dagger. And then Goldar's going to use the Dragon Sword. And then he's going to have an hourglass and they're going to make a trade, but then they're not. And it's like, what? I don't know. I just feel like you're just layering stuff on here and it's good. But then you kind of lost track of your own plan because by the end of it, eventually the parents don't matter. And it's like, we just got to get the power coins back.
I mean, yeah, no, you're right. That is very true to read.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just very true to Rita fashion about like kind of escalating without needing to. And we've mentioned that in previous episodes as well. And I think that's why Zordon is very like, don't escalate when you need to, unless you need to. It's like, whatever Rita's doing, do the opposite of that, please. Because she does the most sometimes.
Yeah.
But you were saying, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, if the lore of Power Rangers, if we follow like the canon, which is that Rita was a ranger, right? Then it's like, it all makes sense. Like Zordon saw, she's unpredictable. She's too chaotic. She's, she doesn't think things through. She escalates unnecessarily. So now he's like, maybe he took that rule from being around her, He was just like, let's not escalate unless it's really necessary, because we've seen how that goes in the past.
No, it's like literally. Sorry, go ahead, Akil.
No, I was just gonna say that Zach called it out at the end of the episode because they were like celebrating, they got the coins back, and Tommy's back, and then Zach's like, "Wait, guys, it's Parents' Day," and then they to find their parent.
Yeah, it's.
I forgot.
Oh, I have one note about the villain scene at the beginning, because I've been watching some random episodes of Zero Ranger, the Sentai series that this is all taken from, because I saw it was on Tubi, and I'm like, oh, I'll give this a shot. And now I have some cursed knowledge that is going back in and contaminating my experience watching Power Rangers, because I notice it only happens like twice and very briefly. There's like a moment where like Scorpina has like her hand on like Goldar's chest, and that stands out to me because in the Sentai they are, and I'm going to use the worst word for it, lovers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't need to remember this.
I feel like it's been insinuated, like for those of us who haven't watched, I think this Sentai, it's always been kind of, even as a kid, I'm like, are they together or not? Like, it's always been kind of like a little bit like hinted at, and it's just like little stuff like that.
Like the final scene of the Sentai is like they come out and they're like, look, we had a baby.
Okay.
And then like Rita's like, oh, I get to be a grandmother. I don't have to be evil anymore.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
But now we know Goldar is a Nepo hire, because we were talking about how like all of these people have to be Nepo babies because they all are so awful at their jobs. And literally later in the episode, Rita goes, I should fire you all. But she doesn't do it. She's like...
Yeah, I definitely thought there was some... I didn't know what when I was a kid, but I was like, okay, they have similar armor and look. So I'm like, they have to be related, connected somehow. Are they like familial? Are they together? You know, so...
that's something that the comics have also, that I've been reading, establishes at the beginning of each of them. They'll show a scene of how each member of Rita's group like joined them, and it's like, oh, Goldar was just one of Zed's like soldiers or something, and Babu was like a magician, like an alchemist for like one planet she conquered, but he accidentally turned his own army to stone, and she's like, way to help me out, you can join the team. But there's one,
really,
I think I have it here, but Babu, our squat, it was like his planet, and he was a little baby, and his parents were like, hey, we'll give you our baby if you spare our lives. And then Rita's like, that's really messed up. I'm sentencing you guys to death. And she just like kept the baby. She's like, oh, you're like a squat little thing. And there's just like a cute little like squat baby like that she's just, I guess, decided to keep around, which I think is kind of adorable.
How about counter offer? I kill you anyways and take your baby anyways, which is kind of like her plan with the parents here, where it's like, give me your power coins and I'm gonna steal your parents regardless. Which, you know what? It's a lose-lose situation for the Power Rangers at this point, right? Because they're definitely like, they're not playing by the same rules as the Rangers are. And we saw that with the Praying Mantis episode as well, where it's like you have honor and the other side doesn't. And how does that present a huge disadvantage, especially if they're willing to escalate and you are not? And we do see that like in this episode as well. Just to kind of pivot a bit, where like Power Rangers in terms of Tommy. So there are always these like, why didn't they do this before kind of stories? But I didn't feel that in this episode because the stakes were so high for returning Tommy's powers. And I like that. So like that, the fact that Zordon might have to be sacrificed in order for Tommy to regain his powers, as opposed to just like, oh, we found a way. Here we go. Oh, don't worry. I put in a little disintegrate system in the Zords. They're not actually destroyed, kind of like plot thing. It's like, it's actually serious business, like getting Tommy to come back and restore his powers.
Yeah. I before we jump into kind of like episode 2 or the part 2, I do my favorite moment of this whole saga is Zordon giving them the choice, you know, like he was like, this is something I can't help you with, and it wasn't kind of like being rude or snarky, but it was just like, you have to, like, this is something you genuinely have to figure out for yourself. I understand if you you know, choose, you know, I understand you giving up your powers to save your parents. Like, that's not something I'm going to, you know, judge you for. And so I really appreciated that whole, like, moment of them having to think of this and question and make the decision, because it's a tough one.
Yeah, for sure. This episode actually gave a lot of options, which I liked as well. Because even when Tommy comes back, Zordon's like, "Hey, like your life is at risk because we don't know how stable your powers are. Is this something that you want to do?" And Tommy goes, "Yeah, of course, I'm going to do it." And in our podcast, for us, this is the first time he's showing an enthusiastic interest in being a Power Ranger.
I will point out he was very late to Parents' Day, though.
Yeah.
And his parents
Classic
aren't even
Tommy.
there. Yeah.
He doesn't have parents.
Yeah.
Which also, like, similar to the Billy point about how did he enter the like room without seeing everyone fighting buddies. By the point Tommy showed up there and was like, "Where is everyone?" There have been there was like a Megazord battle against the Dragon Zord that the Megazord lost. That like somehow Tommy was just blissfully unaware of going throughout his day.
Listen,
Tommy is very like, I'm gonna say ignorant. He purposely ignores everything that's going on in Ranger World unless he's involved. And he did this while he was a ranger, right? He does not care, right? So like even like at the end where he's like, "Well, it'll be great to like be with my friends again." And I'm like, did you never hang out with them and morph? Like, isn't one of them your girlfriend? You never see her? Like, what do you mean? It's just so funny. Like Tommy is just really giving it his 2%.
Because when they reunited in the command center, they were acting like they hadn't seen him at all for like months.
I don't think they did.
We're so happy to have you back. Like, doesn't he go to your school?
No. When has he ever been in the class in the episodes we've watched? Yeah, since he left, like since he lost his powers, he's never been in the classes.
It's because he
Guys,
only
he was
does
busy
karate.
filming the VR Troopers pilot.
Yeah. That's so funny. I was thinking about this in universe about how Tommy doesn't care about anything except for karate. Like nothing. He doesn't give a damn about anything else. And then one day he's like, "I'm just gonna get super into dinosaurs. And this is gonna be my life now. Anyways, I have a PhD in dinosaurs."
Right.
And
why did he go into like mythical creatures since he had the Dragon Zord? Like, why did he do
right? It makes me laugh
but hey,
so hard.
It paid off because he was able to combine those two loves and karate kick a dinosaur.
That's true.
This is true.
He's just ready.
He's so funny. Oh my god, yeah. I mean, it's true. That's why when Adam comes back in Operation Overdrive, he's like, "I just can't believe Tommy's like a teacher now," and it's like, neither can we. He only cared about karate. Yeah. When did he start caring about dinosaurs? Like, when did this happen?
I don't know. Maybe he realized that karate is too much of an obsession and he needed a new obsession.
He needed
to the point where he created.
Something I kind of appreciated too with the whole plot point of like feeling that him getting his powers back was an earned and dangerous thing is that he didn't just come in and beat up Goldar instantly and all the putties and he was like this perfect hero, because I feel like that's the reputation he gets later on.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I've always been more of like, I like Jason or the others more. Like Tommy really stole the spotlight by being too perfect, but here it's like, oh no, he gets his butt kicked. He doesn't even have like the good dragon shield, he just has the foam one.
Yeah.
It's knocked on his butt. He barely makes it back, and it like felt like, oh yeah, like there's like stakes to this. Like even the Green Ranger can't just come in and save the day until he does at the end. But
but
by that point he was in a coma.
Yeah, but I also love. I always bring this up because I don't know. I have an affinity for Goldar. Like he's a loser, but I adore him. And whenever he gets a moment to relish in a victory, he goes all in. He's like, as each one's giving their power coin away, he's making some rude like he's just taunting them with each coin. He comments, and it's hilarious to me because like this man never wins, but he has one moment and he's like, oh yeah, I am the best all of a sudden. And I love
But my favorite was when Kimberly gives her away and he's like, no more Pink Ranger to get in my way, as if like she was his arch nemesis. It's like, no,
Even though it's
you
Jason.
you won't
Wait.
foil my plans again, Pink Ranger.
He's just
As if
sexist.
she ever did.
He's just
So
sexist.
totally. That's so funny. We all know his one true love is actually Jason, right? Like he is so obsessed with Jason. Can't even have a moment without thinking about Jason. Even when Rita's like, my focus is going to be on Tommy, okay? And she's like, oh, what about Jason? I'm going to trap him into this dimension, and I'm going to have Jason.
Oh, yeah.
Jason, you can't save Tommy, Jason.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was great too. That was for the green candle. Again, just taunting Jason relentlessly. Is great.
No.
Well,
Yeah,
they're
no,
so
that's
good.
what like can't like the behind the scenes production stuff of this era like kind of leads to, oh, we just get a lot more Goldar because they had to start filming original American footage, and that's just a suit they had on hand.
Right.
Where like what was the monster Drommel? Like the reason he's just like underground and teleports everyone away and you don't see him until the fight is because this
I
is
forgot.
where they ran out of Sentai footage. So now they went like, we need more monster fight footage. Japan, film more stuff for us. And they're like, what? Oh, sure, we'll make a new stuff, I guess. But then they're like, now we need to try and learn to do our own fight footage. And you can just like tell the difference because it's like, oh, the kicks just do not connect in the American Ranger footage, and you have the foam dragon shield for the Green
Yeah.
Ranger.
And their helmet, their necks are so square. I talk about this every time. I'm like, they don't know how to wear their helmets, right? Like it looks heavy on them in the American footage. Like suddenly
I
they're
noted
like,
the helmets looked weird to me. I think look like there's like a latch or something on the side that's like way more visible in the American footage. I don't know. That stood out to me. I'm like, has that always been there? Like,
no, there's definitely
Yeah.
something about the American footage that is more square. It like throws me off every time I see
Yeah.
it. I'm like, they just look so awkward and uncomfortable in their outfits, whereas in the Japanese footage, it's just very like it feels like a second skin to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree.
but
But-
yeah, I think that makes it like this is such a cool era in the history of Power Rangers because I think this is like the first and probably only time it feels like a true co-production between America and Japan. Because it's like, oh, they are commissioning fight scenes from Japan and they're able to be like, okay, well, we wrote so the Green Ranger and the Pink Ranger have a relationship, so like have the Pink Ranger like touch the Green Ranger's arm when he shows up, and they're like, that's weird, we would never do that, but whatever, sure, you're paying the bills.
Yeah.
And they
Right.
can kind of like connect them more. They're like, oh, we made the Yellow Ranger a girl, so make the Yellow Ranger act more feminine. They're also like, what? No, Yellow Ranger was a boy, but whatever. And it starts to like reflect the Power Rangers more. And yeah, I don't know. I just think it's like neat that we have like this little crossover where it's not just writers in America having to go around like whatever footage they have.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's why they could even bring Tommy back. Because they ran out of footage. But you would think that they would still have a more streamlined story if they have more input. Still no,
Yeah.
but
No, because, and this is like my one, it's nitpicking, but whatever, but like, once they get the coins, they just leave them where, like, he just has them in the box on this rock. And
the
like, why did you
box
take
that
them
the-
back to the palace? Keep them safe and secure. But,
This is why she escalates. It's like also like, why did he get big and not just stay and protect the box?
yeah.
It's you escalate it. You don't escalate. But the box was also Goldar took the dragon dagger and turned it into the box and then put the coins in there, but then later they're two separate entities. So he's able to steal the dragon dagger. And that really confused me.
Yeah.
that's so funny.
The
Yeah.
classic
There's
Power
weird
Rangers
continuity.
oopsie,
The
yeah.
Power Rangers was not meant to be multi-part episodes.
I
It's
mean,
like,
yeah.
I mean, I don't even
That's
think
so
it's really
fun.
supposed to be singular episodes because it's the continuity trying to fuse two different, not even just two different productions, but the two different worlds, right? Because Japanese style, like, content is different from American content, two different audiences, and you're trying to somehow blend them together to make sense for one specific audience. So it's all over the place constantly, along with, like, then the continuity errors and, like, just so many things. It's really fascinating that this thing became so big because it just
Yeah.
doesn't make sense when you look at it just a little critically.
And that's why actually we needed the Go-Go Power Ranger comics because it's like we like the fans were just like really trying to like fill in the blanks
Right.
where we could. But Akil, I wanted to get your opinion specifically on Billy because we know you're his number one fan. Um, Billy turns evil and he goes into the command center and calls Zordon an inflated wing-bag of a head, and he calls Alpha an excuse for a transitory
On the
radio.
radio.
Yes. And I know you're a big fan of his one-liners, so why don't you like put in your 2 cents here?
Well, the one-liners are good. I still stand by like Power Ranger Punks and Bad Billy. I think Bad Billy is really nice. He's coherent, unlike normal Billy. But I love the way that he plays a bad person. I cannot take him seriously as a villain, whether it's magic potions or mind control. He's just completely laughable.
Yeah, that's fair. I can
Yeah.
get that. I did get surprised that, like, and back to what Somberton was saying, it was just like I didn't expect him to get mind controlled. I was just like, okay, you got their parents, cool. That'll be like the main plot. And that was just like another thing. I was like, oh, interesting, like another wrinkle, and then another wrinkle. It was appreciated for a show that typically is very like linear in its plots and just like, okay, this one monster has this one gripe or one thing, and then that's, the whole
Yeah.
20 minutes. So
Ironically, I actually wrote, at least there's consistency, which, you guys were like, what is going on? The monster can mind control Billy, but he uses the power again in the actual fight, which we actually don't see that often. So he does use his mind control abilities against the Rangers in battle, in fight, and they start attacking the Pink Ranger. And a little callback to Trini's little praying mantis style. While she's mind controlled, doing praying mantis style fighting. From my very limited knowledge, I am not a martial arts expert. Don't come for me. It looked like she was doing the praying mantis style. So there was like a lot of consistency going on there. And I thought that was really neat. And on the subject of Trini, because she doesn't get a lot of time in any of the episodes at all, but we all know she is incredibly, incredibly intelligent. And without Billy, she is the one that really kind of is the smart one. She's able to like reboot Alpha pretty fast. She's the only one to keep up with Billy and what's going on in previous episodes. So it's not like too much of a hindrance. Like they're not like completely blind when Billy leaves because Trini's there, and we really do get to see that in this episode. And later on, when Trini's not there, Billy does get like it is very difficult for the Rangers to communicate with Billy. And it's just like I just wanted to put a little bit of a Trini appreciation there, especially because she was the one who did manage to reboot Alpha. No one else knew what to do.
definitely, it's always good. Because you're right, she doesn't get much focus in general. I don't even have any notes really about her specifically. Like even with her parents, right? Her parents were just like, oh, they're nice people, and like everybody else had something. I don't know why they did that. They treated Trini a little weirdly through this first season, but so it's good to note when she does get her moment to shine.
Yeah, definitely, because she definitely is underappreciated. I mean, Somberton, you are reading the comics, and I hear that she does get a bit more limelight in the comics.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to this part, but I know at one point she becomes the Red Ranger for a little bit. Like there's a
Oh.
weird shenanigans storyline where there's things switch and they're like, oh, well, whatever, you'll just be the leader now, I guess, for this period of time. And then Jason's the Yellow Ranger.
Huh.
But yeah, they do
Dean.
a lot of great stuff with Trini. Who I think I was even talking to Nov when we talked one on one, how she's that character who, when I was a kid, I just didn't think much of her. I was like, oh, she's the other girl, or like maybe like the tomboy girl. But it's like, oh no, she's like really like the backbone of the team in a way where she kind of fills almost every role. Like in most, I feel like in most shows, she would be like that leader personality type of, she's kind of good at everything, she gets along with everyone, she can like fill in different spots. Like Jason's great, but like he just knows karate.
Yeah.
Yeah. He has
It's
one,
like
he's very single focused.
like
Yeah.
I know karate, and then it's like, oh no, she's a martial artist, she is also smart, but she also is like personable and gets along with everyone. Yeah, so I really like Trini, and I'm glad, yeah, she's getting like more like stuff going on, and they're like highlighting that in the show, but like especially in the comics now.
Yeah. She is very what I would, if they put her as Jen, I think that like she
Mm.
would have been really strong in that kind of role, right? But like I
Mhm.
think that already we're fighting with Tommy Jason for the limelight in terms of leadership, that she does kind of doesn't get to really show her true abilities, but she doesn't mind it, and that's why she's so great, right? She's really comfortable with like just helping out where she can, and she can help out in a lot of ways, right? Like she's great emotional support for Billy and Zach and Jason and Kimberly. Like there
Yeah.
hasn't been a point where she hasn't been able to like provide that emotional support for them, and she's very good at, you know, fulfilling those roles without like feeling like she's getting like shafted, and like she just like honestly is the true spirit of what being a true friend is. And I think that's a very strong element she has as a ranger. And she's a very good ranger.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. So the end, or part of the one thing that stuck out to me was, so they used Zordon's energy to charge Tommy's power coin. Then you get to the end where he, I guess, is losing power. Zordon is. I don't know fully what it is, but they do
Morphin
something.
Grid.
Yeah, they do something really similar to what they do in the the '95 movie, I think it was, or whatever it came out. Maybe it was the '90, oh, what the original Power Rangers movie.
Yes.
Because like so in that movie, like Ivan Ooze, the villain, like shatters Zordon's tube, and then he has like a physical form, and he's like dying basically. And the Rangers surround him and basically give their energy to revive him and everything. And that's pretty much what they did here. And I was just like, oh, because I didn't remember this episode till I watched it. I just knew Tommy comes back and the parent stuff, but like I didn't
Mm-hmm.
remember the real plot. So a lot of these things kind of surprised me. I was like, oh wow, I wonder if they like took that from this episode when they made the movie, you know?
Yeah, no, and definitely, and I think I mentioned it earlier in this episode about like how the parents thing is also very much like the Power Rangers movie. So I can definitely see a lot of those similarities. Oh
Oh
man, that
yeah,
scene
that's
was really
true.
good with yeah, because they kidnapped the parents in the movie, and they're like use them to like, I mean it's different because they didn't like just like leave them in a dimension. They like actively use them
Mind
to
control,
as
yeah.
an army. Yeah, again, mind control. Like there's definitely a lot of like elements that are overlapping there. Oh, that movie was so good. But that end scene in the movie when they're giving their powers to Zordon, visually, so I mean obviously they had a lot more. It's like this little cute like power coin with like a little zappy stuff.
Yeah.
It's cute. I loved it, honestly, but like visually, like if you compare it to like the Power Rangers movie where they're like holding hands and their powers come and then Zordon returns, such a beautiful moment. Ivan Ooze as a child legitimately stressed me out to
Oh,
no end.
same.
Yeah, I
Oh
was
yeah,
like, how?
I have this memory. I think it's called it's not Fun Zone. It's called like DZ, but similar to I don't know if you all have Fun Zone. But it's basically like a kids version of Dave and Buster's, so like Chuck E. Cheese essentially. And so they have like the play pit where you can like go through the tubes and everything like that. So the movie is like either about to come out or has just been released, and so it's obviously promoting a lot. So I'm in the tube, like just crawling around, and through the speakers they play Ivan Ooze's voice. As a kid, I was so terrified by this thing. It's a memory
That's
that's
crazy.
stuck with me for however many years at this point.
Why they did this?
I don't know. It was horrible. It was horrifying. So yeah, that was Ivan Ooze is, also got some great one-liners when he's destroying the command center. He's just like, oh, the things I've missed. And it's just like the Spanish Inquisition, the Brady Bunch reunion, and you're like, what are you?
Yes. Ivan, what are you talking about? He's so funny. What a good villain.
Yeah.
Power Rangers has some really, I mean, that one, it's like, it's not technically canon because the way they get their ninjetti powers in the show is very different.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an AU thingy. In my head, I insert the Rangers movie, the Power Rangers movie, and kind of remove the actual canon.
I actually like the regular, like the actual canon personally. We'll get to
Yeah. Well, when I rewatch it, maybe I'll have a different opinion. As from what I remember it, like, it is nice. They go on their journeys. They have to do, like, it's very true to what Power Rangers is like. Like, in the movie, they kind of just get their powers. But in this one, it's like you have to, like, find, what's his name? Ninjor, yeah, and like get those powers, which is great. Like, and Ninjor is a good character too. Like, I have no
why
problem.
don't they just go to Ninjor to get more power coins in this episode? The continuity doesn't add up. Power Rangers is
Ninja. Yeah, I mean the Zeo crystals also like the Zeo to Turbo transition is also a thing we can talk about when the time comes. Very similar kind of feeling toward it.
But yeah, that is like interesting to think about though, because going back to how this is like a weird co-production thing where they're like, we need more footage of the Rangers in these suits. This almost could have been a good episode to be, if they had wanted to switch to the next Sentai series and use their footage of like, oh, they took these powers, but then, oh, we went off and got new ones and then rescued our parents and all of that. And it's fascinating to think of if they hadn't been like, no, we're selling these toys up with these suits, we need more footage of this. If they had taken the cheaper route and just adapted to the next series, would Power Rangers have kept its momentum? Would that have like been better or worse? Would people like, I don't know. It's
that's
funny
actually
to
a good
think
question
that
because
like the one time Power Rangers did not take the cheaper option.
Right, they're like, what if 100 more episodes of Mighty Morphin right.
in like a year?
But it's true if you sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, but they do also partially mix because the White Ranger is from a different Sentai, so it's also like, wait, how'd you even do this? Because these scenes shouldn't line up, so like they had to. It's a mess.
They got really good at splicing, really. Like,
well, no, because the footage of when they have actual Japan doing all of this, I think it's only like it goes into like 10 episodes into season 2, I think, and then from there, I think it was pretty much all like American footage, except for the Zords. Which also got confused. I was just reading this up while diving into this. Apparently, because when they get the Thunder Zords in Japan, they had like already done the suit footage too. Like, this is new suit footage in this episode as well. But they were like, oh yeah, so we had the classic Megazord fighting these new monsters, and then they were like, no, we decided we wanted to sell the Thunder Megazord toy sooner, so we're switching over. So they're like, oh, well, that doesn't match. So they like would just, there's a couple episodes where it's just, you see the Megazord, you see the monster, they're never on screen at the same time.
That's so funny.
So look forward to that.
It's the Pokeroo of the Power Rangers world, which I don't think is a reference that you'll get. No,
I don't like Pokeroo.
But it is the Pokeroo of the Power Rangers. You don't like Pokeroo? I go every year to visit Pokeroo. To visit Pokeroo at the lakeshore. Every year, Pokeroo comes to the lakeshore, and I go and I visit him and I take a picture with him. It is a yearly tradition. The only time we didn't do it was during COVID, but I was surprised you don't like Pokeroo. But no,
Power Rangers should fight Pokeroo.
And then we'll have Pokeroo be huge and then like fight the Megazord. Somebody write that fan fiction right now. I implore you, do it. But no, in Polka Dot Door, there's a character called Pokeroo. He is a kangaroo that is like polka dotted. There's a show called Polka Dot Door.
Okay.
And there's a kangaroo that has polka dots on him.
Right.
And there's like a guy who never is seen with Pokeroo at the same time. And I think he's the guy who is in Pokeroo's suit. And that's why you never see them at the same time. So that's kind of like the reference I was making there for you non-Canadian.
As a kid,
Yeah.
I think there was a brief period of time where I thought Bulk and Skull were Squat and Babu. Like that's why they were like bullies, because they were like Rita was sending them to spy on the Rangers or something.
Well, being smart, but
I don't know why I thought that.
I can
Just
see
the
why
like,
you
oh,
thought
I mean,
he's
that.
it's
like
the
kind
same-
of a skinny guy
yeah,
and a bigger guy.
it's the comedic duo. We were talking about this in a previous episode. It's just like the comedic duo setup, right? Like that's literally like one of the styles. Abbott Costello, even Drake and Josh, like things like that. Like it's all, so it makes sense that you would kind of like overlap them.
Yeah, they're very like mirror each other. Like I find that going back to like Rita being a Power Ranger headcanon, Rita and Zordon are mirrors of each other. Swat and Babu are mirrors of Bulk and Skull, and like Goldar is like a mirror of the Red Ranger. So there is definitely a lot of like
Billy
parallels
Finster.
that way. Yeah, Finster is like Billy. Yes, exactly. And I love that. I love that there's kind of like this balance between the two, and you really get to see that play out in the show as well. But I definitely can see why you thought that Somberton.
So what do you guys think of the Green Ranger's theme song?
Oh my God, I wrote a note of this. Okay, Goldar's gonna get you. Don't let evil Rita put a spell on your mind. Go Green Ranger. So specific, these lyrics.
Yeah.
I think we just have the same notes because I also wanted to mention that. Funny thing about that theme song, it was not originally the Green Ranger theme song, like the instrumental. The lyrics obviously are, but because when Jason David Frank, when he was not being Tommy, he went off and filmed a pilot for VR Troopers, and this was the theme song for that pilot. This was like originally going to be like his theme, and then they're like, oh, actually, we're going to continue Power Rangers. Let's bring him back for a while. This can be, I guess this will just be the Jason David Frank theme, the Green Ranger theme now.
Yeah.
That's an amazing little tidbit.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I did not know that. We have this amazing theme. Oh my God, so good.
So the artist's name is Ron Wasserman. I've talked about the music before because I really do love it. It's like one of my favorite things of the early seasons of Power Rangers. Like all the songs are very similar, by the way. It's not like they don't sound. They have similar riffs and similar like the everything's just the same in a way. Just a little, the tunes a little slightly different, but they're good. They're all fun and good, like. And in the last few episodes, I forgot how many episodes ago, but that's when they first started really like introducing the actual songs. Like they had the Power Rangers theme songs and like the music, the instrumental, but like only recently in the season did they start actually having these songs, but they're, to me, iconic elements of the show that like you can't remove from it. And
I
the
wish
Green
that
Ranger
the
theme
new
especially, I mean,
yeah, I wish that the new shows, I know that why they don't, but I wish that the new shows still incorporated those stuff.
yeah.
Man,
Yeah, that's another
it's so
thing
good.
with this era of like, they were like, yeah, and we're gonna get new music and we're gonna do all this and we'll film American footage and we're gonna do everything except pay our actors what they deserve.
I know, literally. Oh my God. Yeah.
While they're
And that's
making
why they were,
bank.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why they were like, hey, maybe we should renegotiate. Because it's like, it makes sense, right? Obviously, I'm on the side of the actors on this one, but oh man, it's so unfortunate what happened.
Right. I was actually just
crazy
watching
thing, 'cause-
there's a show on Netflix called The Toys That Made Us.
Yes.
So I was already
Yeah.
I'd seen it before, but I was rewatching the Power Rangers episode because they have one for Power Rangers, and they were saying that they were not on any shelves anywhere because it was sold out. So I'm like, so this company is making so much money, but it can't pay its actors. The voice actor for Zordon said he did all his lines in like one day and got paid like $100 or something like that. It's really messed up considering how successful this entity has been. But yeah.
Yeah. It really is sad and unfortunate. But let's wrap this up with final thoughts on how we feel about Tommy being back. It is a big momentous occasion. Let's start with you, Akil. You are wearing green, so I guess this is your time to shine.
Yeah. I think coming into this like podcast, I think on episode 1 we talked about Tommy coming back before Tommy was even introduced. So this has been like a long time coming from the beginning, but I can't imagine, and maybe you guys can talk about it a little bit more, watching the episode for the first time and not knowing what was going to happen and how you guys felt.
When I was a kid, okay, no, there was a time Tommy came back and I was like flipping, like I was like shitting my pants when Tommy came back. I don't know if it was this time because spoiler alert, he does leave again and come back again. And so I know there was one part of initial shock. I think I did shit my pants when this one happened too, right? It was a big deal at the time, right? That he came back. We were children. That's all I could really say. As an adult, and also just as a, like, we didn't see what the title of the episodes were as a kid. We didn't see that it said Return of an Old Friend. We weren't reading that, right? We didn't know anything. It's different on Netflix. It's called Return of an Old Friend. I wonder who that is, right? Like, but yeah, as a kid, it was just like a really different experience. As an adult, as someone who has complained so far about Tommy's behavior, I love Tommy, right? At the end of the day, like I'm watching this and I'm like, I have my qualms, but I love Tommy, right? Like, and you forget, right? You know, there's a reason why he was like one of the most popular like characters. But even watching this, I'm like, oh, honestly, I always forget how much I love Tommy until he comes back, you know? Like, and because of this episode, I started rewatching Dino Thunder because he's so good, you know, like in Dino Thunder, he really is like, I'm not gonna say at his prime because like that feels like a false statement, but like he is so good. Like I think, you know, it's exciting. What do you think, Somberton?
I think it's great having him back now because I've kind of always feel similar where Tommy was never even like my favorite. I'm like, no, I wanted Jason or Zach or like, you know, he just stole the spotlight from everyone. And I feel like this is the start of where like he actually does come in and be like really awesome and great and like earn that. Because when you go back to the like in the episodes you guys have covered so far, it's like, oh, he actually just isn't there that much. And that's because they're limited by the Sentai footage. But now they're like, no, we can actually dictate what we want the Green Ranger to do and be involved in the story and have Tommy be more integral to where we're going. And so I think this is like the beginning of like what really was the prime Green Ranger era. Like, I think this era where they're like, I don't know, Tommy, your powers could disappear at any moment. It's really unstable is actually like notably longer than his initial run as the Green Ranger. Yeah, I think there's just like a lot of great things like coming forward because they're like finally free to actually do the character justice.
Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely agree with like feeling upset about him stealing the spotlight. Still love him.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, that'll be the White Ranger episode.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I think I like him as the White Ranger a lot more, but I do again have qualms about him stealing the spotlight. We talked about this in the last episode. I'm like, there's no reason Tommy should have been the leader. I don't think he should have been the leader. Still hold true to that. No way. Why did this happen?
Bring me back for that one and we'll rant for like the 2 hours.
Yeah, we'll do a little special.
I'm pretty sure that's a two-parter as well. So
yeah, I hate that Tommy became a special episode of I hate that Tommy became the leader featuring Somberton. Like that, like literally. Oh man. But go ahead, Nev. How do you feel about Tommy being back?
Yeah, I think, well, to answer more of like Akil's question, I think I was probably excited because I did, at least when I was younger, I did like Tommy. I don't know if he was my favorite, but I did like the Green Ranger, you know, with the shield and everything. I was like, oh, this is really cool and everything. So it was very exciting. And then even to your point of, I remember more vividly when he became the Black Ranger in Dino Thunder. I was like, oh my freaking goodness. I was hyped. You know, so there was definitely like an enjoyment of him as a kid. Watching it back and being an adult and kind of having Tommy fatigue after all these years is obviously a different story. But so I'm like trying to explore like with/without rose-colored glass. It's very conflicting.
It is very conflicting.
But I mean, it was like, I think they did it in one of the most compelling ways they could have, right? At least the way they brought him back. I think that also like adds to the excitement of it, because it wasn't just he's just back and he just gets, like here's a new coin or something. Like there's a whole story, a whole journey with stakes that they had to go through, where like he also, for the first time in our minds really had to like care for the other Rangers, in a real tangible way, and not just be doing his own thing. And so like you actually felt the connection between him and the other Rangers, in my opinion, for the first time in rewatching these episodes. It was an exciting time, and I think the limitation on his powers also then leaves you interested in like, okay, how long does this last? And again, if we had not known, like not trying to view it from the perspective of not knowing, it's even more like exciting and like kind of like intriguing, because you just don't know, is he going to be back for 2 episodes? Is he going to be back for a whole new season? What's going to happen? And like he lost his powers once. Is he going to lose them again? Now, so there's a lot of intrigue here. So yeah, I mean, overall, good feelings.
Yeah, totally. Dino Thunder is so good. I can't wait till we get to Dino Thunder in 100 years.
Yeah.
I want to
when
know.
The dinosaurs come back to life, and then we'll be able to watch it with them.
Yeah.
That's how long it'll take us to Dino Thunder.
It's so funny though, because the Tommy fatigue, bringing back to Tommy fatigue, and we can have that be the conclusion, is I think after Dino Thunder is when it started, because like up until like Dino Thunder, like that excitement of Tommy being back for Dino Thunder, like I will never forget that feeling. My cousin, who was a lot younger, that was when he started getting into Power Rangers. So his first Power Rangers was Dino Thunder. And honestly, like it's such an amazing, unique experience, like having someone experience Power Rangers for the first time, as we know here. And it's so nice. And like I think after that, it just like really was like, hey, remember Tommy? Hey, remember Tommy? Hey, remember Tommy? And it's just like, what about everybody else?
It's even worse, because not only did they go, hey, remember Tommy, they also go then, hey, remember Tommy? How powerful he is? Oh, wait, we're going to give him more power, because that's all. Like, that's where I started to get frustrated. I was like, oh, he gets this Master Morpher where he can access all his powers. It's like, does no other Ranger matter and, like, have any ability? Like, it was just so tiring. And
I mean, he could be a whole team of 5 to himself.
Yeah.
Right.
And
it'd be 2 reds.
And
but...
I think, personally speaking, what also, like, amplified for me was because Mighty Morphin is the most iconic season, and that's like where the general, not fans, but general like audience is stopped, right? They stopped at Mighty Morphin. So all they know is Tommy as the Green Ranger, as maybe the White Ranger, and thinking he's amazing. So whenever they do bring him back, all you hear is people excited for him. And I'm like, why are we excited for him? Like, I'm just like, can we not be so excited for him? Like, but I get it. That's their real memories of it. So,
but we talked about how, like, why are we catering toward that audience? Right? Like the people who are watching Power Rangers now, watch Power Rangers now. We care about the other Rangers a lot. Yeah. So why are we catering toward an audience of people who are not watching Power Rangers, right? Are they bringing in new viewers for Power Rangers? I don't think so. Like maybe they watch for that one episode, but really what was the purpose of doing that? And it's great that like Jason David Frank was so enthusiastic about coming back, but the other Rangers were too, right? Especially with Dino Thunder, which has such a close place to my heart. And fans have asked, like, are you guys coming back? None of the Dino Rangers come back except for an SPD. Yeah. Right? Like, what about the other Rangers? Jen, what about
What's
so many? What about
name?
RJ?
The actor's name now. Who plays Wes? He's like, I feel like he's slid into that JDF role in a way now. Like he's very gung-ho and very like all about Power Rangers, which is great. You know, I love it. I'm blanking on his names right now. But yeah, like there's, I think that was the thing for a long time. Maybe this is another reason. Jason David Frank was pretty much the only actor that was like, I was a Power Ranger and I love it and I love the fans for it, right? To be fair, like a lot of other Ranger actors distance themselves from it because of maybe not being able to get opportunities because it's like a stigma that like, oh, if you're on Power Rangers, you know, you're not like, apparently I think it was Amy Adams was supposed to be the pink Lightspeed Rescue Ranger. If I remember correctly, I remember reading
Really?
this. She was like, it was
What?
presented to her and she was advised not to because of the stigma of like doing Power Ranger, and like she probably made the right choice. Look at her, you know, it's Amy Adams, you know, but someone can fact check me if they want. But I'm pretty sure it was Amy Adams. But so like all these like the three originals that leave, you know, Tweet Trang and Walter, they all distance themselves from Power Rangers for a while, for whatever their reasons, and I think that's completely valid. But like JDF was like, I'm a Ranger. I'm the Green Ranger. I'm the most popular Ranger. So that probably helped too. That he's like the most popular.
I think that was it, right?
Yeah.
Like he was the one who, like, if you are at a convention, like everyone's like, "Oh, I'll go get JDF to get him to sign my stuff."
Right.
He's the one that drew people out. He was the one who, you know, I think could just like capitalize on it more. He was also younger too. I think. Like I know, like Austin St. John was like 18 when it started, but I think JDF was also like 18, maybe even like younger when he came in,
and he went longer, right, than anybody else.
Yeah,
so like he went 5, almost 4.5-ish years, maybe 5, longer than anyone really. Because everybody else left by then.
But yeah, it is funny when you think about like the legacy of just like even just like past him as an actor, but Tommy as a character. It's kind of weird because like you look at like the Zordon era, he wasn't there at the beginning. He wasn't there at the end. Like the big myth arc of where you just treat that as like, this is the big saga of Power Rangers. Like he was there for most of the middle, but he wasn't like the guy at the start. He didn't conclude it. He was very much in the like, oh yeah, well, this is an episodic series that we don't really have greater plans for how it's going to evolve or if it's going to end. So he was just a very static character who week to week was just, he becomes the leader and he's awesome and cool. But it's ironic because he has this reputation of being introduced as like, oh, he was the Ranger who was evil, but then he became good. And then he just kind of like stayed there. Like, you know, it's like that's when the franchise becomes very stagnant and stops to change as much. And I don't know, it's interesting.
But he does, to his like credit, I guess, or he does carry through those 3-4 years, right? Like it is, again, for whatever reason, he was that people were interested in the green, white, red Ranger. So that was what so he might not have been at the beginning of the end, but like, and I think we talked about this when we did the Green with Evil saga. Like that was also when Power Rangers, I think people like it just really became a thing. Like adding Tommy, that whole story made you feel like, okay, there is more to this than just like people in rubber suits, you know, and whatever. So I have to give him some credit as much as I don't like.
Well, yeah, you got to really appreciate someone who does, like, especially as fans, doesn't like shaft the franchise, right? I mean, I know by the end, a lot of people were saying, not me, but a lot of people were saying that, hey, like, he has to let go, you know, like he's just holding on to this thing that he did in the 90s and blah, blah, blah. But like, you got to appreciate the people who care about the things they were part of, right? Like, I personally will never think that that's a sad thing. I know people have like their opinions on it, like, oh, the actor that won't let go of that one thing they're in. No. Why should they let it go? So you definitely gotta appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that is weird and maybe it's because I'm a wrestling fan, so I see wrestlers doing similar things. And I think I even talked about this last time we had talked about, like, the way Tommy is treated. I compare it to wrestling a lot just because I see parallels. But, like, there are wrestlers from the 80s who, you know, the few of them that are still around, they show up at cons, you know, and it's like they're retired, they're just chilling, they're living their life. But it would be weird if I went like, why are you still clinging to being a wrestler? Like, you made fans happy. Like, why wouldn't they want to? If they're interested in giving back to the fans and however they can, why would I, shun them or degrade them for that? That's a weird thing.
Literally. I on the opposite end find it sad when they don't care.
Yeah.
Like, but I guess that comes from a fan perspective.
Of
like
course.
it like breaks my heart a little bit. Like Rose, who plays the Yellow Ranger in RPM, she doesn't distance herself from it, but she actually has like a career and stuff. So like when you go to conventions, it's like, it's not really her focus.
Yeah.
And like it just kind of like, like I would love it if you actually went to panels. But you can't ask that of them.
Yeah.
Like, no way, you can't ask that of them.
No.
But like,
But I get it.
like Rocky completely was like, I don't give a damn about Power Rangers. Like, I don't even care about Power Rangers until recently, right? And it's just kind of like, so like you do
I think there's an element too that's like, because it's not just like their relationship with like even like the fans a lot of the time. I just feel like a lot of them were burnt by the business end of it, where
I mean,
like,
totally.
Like it's like, oh, for us, it's all these like fun nostalgic memories of like, oh yeah, they got to be these characters and have these adventures and do all this. But yeah, these are young up and coming actors who were like, well, this could be my big break. And it never really was for like hardly any of them. Like the actors who go on to, be more mainstream like stuff afterwards, it's very little. Most of them just disappear, and it's like, oh, they just get used up. They spend a year in New Zealand having to do all this crazy stunt work and not make that much money.
Yeah.
They
do get treated poorly, especially Rocky, who got like literally kicked out because he hurt his back. He was resentful for it for a long time, and rightfully so. Like, I don't blame him at all. That is a good point.
Even like, this like with the like original plan of Mighty Morphin only being 40 episodes, it was like, okay, most of them were like, okay, we're signing up for this show. It's a kid's show. It's a little embarrassing, but like, whatever. I'm a young actor. It gets my foot in the door. I get experience. Sure, I have to live in my van for like the next 6 months, but it's something. But then it's like, oh, this becomes the biggest thing in the world. Now they lose their anonymity. They can't just go out and be normal people, but they're also not being paid enough. But then they're also expected to like, now you got to travel the world and go to these conventions and be on all the time. But also we're extending it past that 40 episodes, but we're not going to be using as much Japanese footage. So you have to do more stunt work, which is also crazy because it's like, oh, they were all hired because they could do their own stunts, and we're still not even being compensated for that properly. So like I get like why so many of them were burnt out. Whereas totally. Jason David Frank was like, oh, you were really big. Hey, we're going to give you this new show, VR Troopers, because you're so popular. It's like, oh, cool. But then it's like, actually, no, we're going to bring you back and you're going to be the leader of the Power Rangers. And you're going to have all the toys and like, like all of, he got the most benefit of it. And even then, I think he probably got screwed over a lot too. He was just,
for sure. Yeah.
That is a great perspective. And thank you for bringing that up, Somberton. Yeah. Something to definitely think about. Yeah. On that cheerful note, this has been Once a Ranger. Thank you once again, Somberton, for joining us. We love having your insights. It's always amazing to have another Power Ranger fan on there, especially since like a lot about the comics. Like with Nick's departure, we really like missed that aspect of the podcast, let's just say. And it's been great. Thank you for joining us. Hiatus. Yeah. Not permanent departure. Sorry for anyone who's listening. He's not gone permanently. As you know, he is a new father. He needs to focus on his family, and we are supporting him throughout his entire journey. He's welcome back whenever he wants and whenever he's ready. P.S.
Yeah, just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, sorry.
I want unnecessary tea to be stirred all of a sudden.
Oh, like,
departure? No. What happened?
No. Just he has to focus on his life. Yeah. And he has a dear place in our heart.
We love you, Nick.
we love you, Nick. And well, I'm Minhas. I'm joined with Akil, Nuv, and Somberton. Until next time, this has been Once a Ranger. Stay Morphin.
Once a Ranger,
always a Ranger.